Many public services or programs, often they don't reach each and every person whom they are expected to reach. Civil servant has to apply thought, and that thought comes from good, rigorous academic work, comes from the demands that people make, comes from the demands that the system makes. India is in a position to secure a life of dignity and human well-being for all. In 2024, the biggest challenge today, how to make sarkari asarkari. We need an institutionalization of the partnership of governments and civil society. Sikkim reduced stunting by 8 points in the last 5 years, between 1516 and 1921. Bihar managed a 5-point reduction by promoting diversity.
Namaste. Namaste, Amarjeet Sinha ji. Thank you for coming to Rishihood and addressing a diverse cohort from across the country during the policy bootcamp. And your topic was on the last mile. So I wanted to also have a message from you to our online audience, particularly those who are watching us and would want to play a role in policy making. Many of them have a thought that possibly UPSC, the career that you have taken, right, as a civil servant is the only way. But I'm very sure, and the way you are addressing the student, are the various different ways that they could contribute in the sense of policy implementation, monitoring. So what would be your message to the young audience out there, and how do they help the government in taking the policies to the last mile? So if you could tell us about
In fact, I interact a lot with youth who are trying to make a difference in rural areas. And as you are absolutely right, there are many ways in which they can make a change. Just a week back, I was addressing Gandhi Fellows, 500 of them, who had spent 2 years working in a rural area, living there for some weeks, and following up on some public service reforms in that village. And what I found was that there was a lot of learning in that process. Each one of them could see some transformation on account of the effort that they made. It only confirms that a professional willing to work in rural areas can make a big change if he or she chooses to work with local communities to make a transformation. Because many public services or programs, often they don't reach each and every person whom they are expected to reach. So there's a major last mile function that professionals, civil society and decentralized community action does. So I think it's important role that they need to also take care of.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you're saying that already a lot of public spirited individuals at the grassroots who can help the government take it to the last mile. But I'm also very sure that they have a role in also research and contributing to the policymakers, because as it said that, right, you can be in your ivory towers and think of a policy, but unless it gets its input from the grassroots, it may not be effective, or you may not get the right inputs as well. So do you see a role also for the research-minded individuals out there, and how can they contribute? If that
I completely agree, and I can share with you, while I'm an administrator, a lot of my time has gone into academic work as well. I was very fortunate that many very good academics allowed me to be a part of their team to study education, health and other fields. So I think if I had not been open to the idea of academics contributing to the thought process, because I often compare it with the motto of Wipro, applying thought. A civil servant has to apply thought. And that thought comes from good, rigorous academic work. That thought comes from the demands that people make. That thought comes from the demands that the system makes. So how best you apply thought in a manner that the maximum citizens get the benefit of. So I think rolling out any program requires investment in policy design. And in the policy design, you actually need the active partnership of all. And again, I think something which over the last 2 years that I have engaged in very intensive academic work, I find 4 specific themes which are relevant for us today. India is in a position to secure a life of dignity and human well-being for all in 2024. More so because the resources are there, the human resources are there. A democratic government is accountable to its citizens. And from that point of view, if we do the right things, and there are 4 lessons which academia offers us. One, I find wherever decentralization and community action has been important and the dominant theme, those states have better human development indicators. There are studies which the Reserve Bank of India had done in 2023 to establish that decentralization and devolution also leads to higher achievements in human development. The other lesson which is there from research is human development, wherever it is high, these are also the states where the monthly per capita consumption expenditure is high. Sikkim, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, the same states where you find the linkages of decentralization and human capital, you also find the linkage of human capital and consumption, which is a proxy for income.
Yeah.
The other thing which we find, public expenditures lead to government programs. The biggest challenge today, how to make sarkari asarkari.
Yeah.
These are all sectors which are sectors of public good. You need public expenditure, but how do you make it into a community institution? How do you make it into an accountable institution? That's where the role of the civil society, the role of academia, the role of professionals in rural areas, in urban areas, matters a lot, because unless and until we are able to capture the diversity of voices or evidence-based studies to tell us what is happening right and what is not. So I think we need an institutionalization of the partnership of governments and civil society. Civil society could be local women's groups is also civil society. Panchayats are also part of that local government structure. So I think if we try and create an environment, an enabling environment, which allows us to listen to contrarian views, which allows us to subject data to scrutiny, which allows us to debate and dissent and come to some agreed evidence-based conclusions. That's the best way to move forward.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Particularly your interest in academia is very interesting because you talked about your personal journey of how you're always research-minded, data-driven. We imagine ourselves at Rishi would also that, right? We say we are education for impact, and that's not just a slogan. We want to bring it down to our curriculum and our action. So we look at Rishi University as a part of the community here. So we may call ourselves also civil society, that we want to play a role in helping the communities around us also do better. And there are courses, so though they are not standalone courses like a social work program here, it is a part of the core curriculum that everybody has to socially engage, because you need to know the challenges. You'll have to have a campus where you interact freely with the communities around you. So where do you see the role of academic institutions like Rishi that have an active interest in making the community's lives better, from research to physical action? So where do you see, what role can Rishi play? What would be your advice to us?
No, in fact, I engage with a lot of universities like yours, the Azim Premji University, the Indian School of Business, and the IIM, Calcutta and other places. I think the thirst for knowledge is one part, but engagement with the larger neighborhood is another.
Yeah.
And many institutions which have started doing it, in the case of Azim Premji University, it also has the foundation, the Azim Premji Foundation.
Yeah.
So while the university discusses academia, the academics also contribute through the foundation to the development of education in remote areas.
Yeah.
So I think I clearly see a very important role, and especially the students of today. Most of the courses that I teach in different universities in the country, public policy courses, there's a thirst for knowledge.
Yes.
They want to understand more from micro examples and micro studies.
True.
In fact, so many questions get posed to me many a time when I teach, that besides the book that I wrote on the last mile, I also got in touch with a large number of my friends who are academics, activists, development professionals. Together we are working on 6 volumes. July onwards we hope to release them, of micro studies, about 115 micro studies on learning outcomes in schools, nutrition, healthcare for all, livelihood and skills, climate action and change, and institutional challenges to human development. And these are all micro studies. For example, Sikkim, reduced stunting by 8 points in the last 5 years, between 15-16 and 19-21.
Yes.
But why don't we try and understand how it achieved it? So we have a micro study on Sikkim.
Yeah.
Bihar managed a 5-point reduction by promoting dietary diversity. We are documenting that. So a lot of the micro studies are around failures and successes to show to us which is the best way to move forward. And I'm confident that these volumes will serve a very important curricular purpose, academic purpose in public policy courses, because public policy courses need many more micro studies.
Oh, that's amazing, because exactly as you mentioned, this is what we truly need. And coming from someone like you who has served in the government for so long, I mean, the authenticity of it, the insight that you would have, definitely our classrooms would benefit a lot. So looking forward to more such discussions where not just in the classroom that you teach, but all the research material that you create for us, we would want to integrate it into our curriculum and take it to many more students out there.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
It's been a pleasure in interacting with the group of youngsters today. And thank you very much for providing this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Best wishes for your university.
Thank you.
Thank you.